Hello, welcome to my second episode of the third season review of Man in the High Castle. Episode title is Imagine Manchuria. And in the last week since I recorded, I've watched the episode 3 times. Maybe a little bit of overkill, but I wanted to make sure that I could be kind of on top of the plot of the episode as I talked about it. So to begin with, let's go over the plot, the basic plot of the second episode of Man in High Castle. This is the description from Amazon. Juliana recognizes that her and Tagomi's fates are intertwined. Tagomi and Admiral Inokuchi realize that the Reich is imposing a covert oil embargo on the Pacific states. And I just wanted to comment, this plot is interesting. It kind of parallels what America did to Japan leading up to World War II. It imposed an oil embargo on Japan, and it can be argued that's one of the biggest reasons why Japan felt the need to directly attack the U.S. Continuing with the basic plot, Reichsmarshal Rockwell and J. Edgar Hoover plot against John Smith. Helen starts therapy to cope with her grief over Thomas and takes drastic action to protect her family. Kido and Tagomi clash over Juliana. So that's the basic plot. I have a few things I want to comment upon in this episode. The first one is more business about the showrunner of the series. As I discussed last episode, there was a change in the showrunner from seasons 2 and 3. The original showrunner was Frank Spotnitz, and he was replaced with Eric Overmyer, who is a writer who has worked on such series as Oz, Person of Interest, and Bosch. Homicide, The Wire, and Bosch. And I've learned that Eric Overmyer has left the show. He's returned to Bosch to be the showrunner for the next season of that show. And even though season 4 is in the middle of shooting right now, I have been unable to find any information, any press release over who the showrunner is for Man in the High Castle in season 4. It's a mystery to me, and I spent quite a bit of time trying to find out who the new showrunner is. So that issue kind of hangs over the air of the entire season, because a showrunner is responsible not just for the direction of one season, but the subsequent seasons. And if Amazon hired a showrunner to pilot the show for season 3, knowing there would be a season 4, how did Eric Overmyer plan the season? Did he always know? Or was there always a question over whether he would return? And if there was, how much freedom did he feel in plotting the season? Because if you know you have to leave the show for someone else, you may hesitate to be definitive in what you do with many of the characters. As I continue to watch this season, I'll keep that question in my mind. Just how much do I feel the events in season 3 were affected by the fact that the showrunner was just a jobber? He was only going to be there for one season. It's okay. Let's go over the writer of the episode was Eric Overmyer, the second episode. The director, Alex Zakrzewski. Pardon me if I mispronounced that name. And his credits, he's worked on the shows Oz, Person of Interest, and 12 Monkeys. So Oz and Person of Interest, that mistake I made about Eric Overmyer before, that's because I was reading a line above in my notes. That's the director has worked on those shows. Okay, now onto the show itself, this episode. I thought this episode had some really good character moments. some really good acting, and I really appreciated that. I like that this episode, because it was less bogged down with setting everything up like the first episode was, and I liked the first episode. I thought it did a really good job at pacing and introducing all these new elements that were going to be important to the arc of the season. I thought it was really well done. But that means that if you're focused on plot, you're losing character. And I thought, it's not centered. Where do I have to sit? I have to sit right here. Pardon me, again, this is the second time I've done this, so I'm still trying to get the technical aspects all worked out. But I thought, at least in a couple scenes, the writer gave some interesting moments for the actors, and the director gave the actors space to play out the scenes. Something I know from, personally I have not directed a TV show, but something I know from commentary on movies, the DVD commentary, Blu-ray commentary, is that actors appreciate a longer take because it gives them a chance to invest in the scene and play against the other actor, play the moments against the beats with the other actor. So any scene where there's a lot of editing because of lighting of the scene, or camera movement, kind of messes up the flow of the actors. But there are two scenes in the episode where the actors are given a chance to really play the moment out. The first one is, let me draw, give me 1 second. I'm going to drop the scene list of the episode from Amazon X-Ray. But it's scene number, according to Amazon, scene number 2. And it's the scene with Juliana and Tagomi, and the actors, Juliana played by Alexa Davalos, and Tagomi played by Nobusuke, no, that's the character's name, Nobusuke Tagomi. Actor Kari Hiroyuki Tagawa. And it's an important moment between the two characters. Throughout the 2 seasons, there's been an important relationship with the characters. And important for the plot because the characters, they're not equal in status. So by all accounts, by all measures, these two characters within the society that they live in, they should not be cooperating with each other, especially Tagomi, because he is an insider. He is a member of the powerful, one of the powerful bureaucrats that are running the occupation of the Western states. Yet he is drawn into, slowly but surely, he's drawn into helping the resistance. And this scene is a very important moment for demonstrating that the bond between these two characters is going to be strong enough that Tagomi is putting his life on the line to aid Juliana. So, something I wanted to mention about acting. My background, I'm a creative writing major. But while I was in college, I took some acting classes, and I'm glad I did. It's been very useful for me in my own writing. But the reason I mention all this, one of the things I learned from acting is the idea of levels. And that is that when you are acting in a scene with another character, you need to be aware of where's your level in relation to that other character. Are you higher or lower? Because a lot of the conflict that happens between the two characters is represented by those levels. If you're below another character, the conflict is created because your character is trying to get above the other character, or the other character is trying to assert their level on you. And most scenes are, some way, levels are part of that scene, the conflict between those levels. And the interesting thing about, I'm still not centered. Let's see if I can move this. How can I get myself to the middle? I think if I do that. No, still more to the left. Let's do this. Yeah, that helps. the interesting thing of the scene between Tagomi and Juliana is that it's not about the conflict of two people at different levels trying to change those levels. It's about two characters coming to a rapport and the danger that rapport creates. It's in this moment that you can see Tagomi really is saying his life now is going to be connected to Juliana's, for better or for worse, even if it means that their lives will be put at risk. And the way that the actors play this scene, with the pauses and breaking off eye contact to look if they're considering the moment just like that, lent an air of credulity, believability to the performances, and slowed everything down so that you could appreciate the stakes, especially for Tagomi, the stakes that he is creating for his own life by throwing in, by risking himself to aid Juliana, and the reason for that. So that moment was sublime. I really appreciated that. And then there was a second moment, just two actors, that I also thought you could see that you couldn't see the effort, really is what I want to say. You couldn't see the effort. It seemed very natural. It's the moment where John Smith, played by Rufus Sewell, is talking to the reporter Thelma Harris, played by Laura Mennell, who, by the way, was in the movie The Watchmen. And in this moment, Rufus Sewell is being a threat. He's being a threat to the character of Thelma. So Obersttrooper, I always have trouble saying this. Obersttrooper Gruppenführer John Smith is threatening Thelma Harris to reveal that she is in a fake marriage and that her husband is homosexual and that she's also homosexual, which within the Nazi Reich means death. So even though he doesn't overtly state the threat, it's quite clear. And the moment where he reveals that he knows her secret, and because he has the capacity to bring about her death for knowing this secret, the camera shows her face, and as she opens her lips to reply, there is a spit bubble. You see a spit bubble at her lips, and then it breaks. And I don't mention that to be crass. I mention that because it's not, I can't imagine an actor mechanically producing that, like making that part of their repertoire, part of their decision within the moment. To me, it seems that it's more an indication of the actress being within the scene, feeling that emotion, and because she's so invested in the scene, she's not paying attention to having that spit bubble form and burst. And it's something that would happen to someone that's really nervous too. You don't want that to happen. It makes you look kind of foolish to the other person. And then all the pauses and in the eyes, just all the unconscious body things that are going on within the actors in that scene that show that they're in the moment. It drew me into the scene. So the acting in this episode, for the most part, I think part of that, most of that, of course, credit goes to the actors, and then some of that goes to the writer, because the writer is the one creating that scene, but also the director, by making the setup of that scene as simple as possible, so that the actors can play the scene without any cuts and get into the beats and play against the other actor. So that was a highlight. Those two scenes were really highlights of the episode. Unfortunately, my card got full, and so about 8 minutes of footage was lost. The camera was not recording. I'll have to do it all again. I'll try my best. Number 4, story. One thing I wanted to talk about was the multiverse and how it seems like many of the characters, more of the characters now, are starting to become aware of the existence of a multiverse and the effect that it's beginning to affect them in subtle ways. We're not quite sure. If in this episode we see Helen maybe is getting to that through the death of Thomas, even though she's coming at it obliquely, since she's thinking about going to seers or psychics to try to contact Thomas through the afterworld, the afterlife. And Kido, because he saw Trudy, someone that he had killed, now is also having questions about his reality. And my point about bringing all this up is this is one way that the book and the TV show are different. And that is that for Dick, the questions of what is humanity and what is reality were more important for him than the question of the effect a political ideology, a political system has on the people who live in that system. Whereas for the TV show, it seems to me, for the first 2 seasons, it was the reverse order. That the question of people resisting an oppressive political system or becoming compromised, betraying their ideals and working within that system, and the effect that corruption has upon them and their families, that has been center stage. It's been more important than the idea about what is reality and what is humanity. But because now we've had Trudy's double come from another Earth, and Kido has seen that, you are beginning to see, and we see glimpses through a newsreel that Juliana and Joe Blake may be involved in the future with a Nazi project to open the gate to the multiverse. It seems that this idea about our reality will be more important in season 3 and then perhaps in season 4. And that, for Dick, was the gist of why he would have been interested in the political aspect. During his research for the book, he read a lot about Nazism, and he was trying to come with the question of what can bring a person to the point where they have no feeling about mass execution, the Holocaust of another race. And for him, I don't remember the specifics, but for him there was an important moment where he read about 2 Nazi guards killing a baby and maybe joking about it, not having any feeling for it. And that was kind of the light bulb moment for him about what is humanity. It's empathy. It's the ability to feel sympathy for other people, to feel for their pain, to experience joy on their behalf for the good events that happen to them. It's what makes humans, some humans, more human than other humans, to quote another Philip K. Dick work. It's what separates humans from robots, humans from artificial intelligence, the ability to feel empathy for others. And I'm trying to think anywhere in season 1 or 2 where there was any moment where this idea of empathy was central to the plot or central to a scene. There's an important moment in the book with Robert Chilton and the 2 Japanese upper class technocrats that they are in season 1, but there's a moment in the book that brings in the 2 questions of what is reality and what is humanity that was never in the show. And I can't think of any moment maybe the closest would be in season 1 when Frank Frink is in jail with the collaborator, the resistance collaborator, and they're looking at their own deaths. They're looking at maybe being tortured and executed by the Kempeitai. And a lot of that scene revolves around where does a person find the courage to resist when it even costs them their life? I remember that. But I'm trying to think if there was any question about empathy there. Maybe about Frank's, his nephew and niece being killed along with his sister. And that doesn't go into the question of empathy. If it did, Kido would have been affected by that. If you're trying to test where does empathy lie? Yeah, I just don't see it. I think the political aspect, because the death of his niece and nephew and his sister is one of the things that draws Frank into the resistance. So again, that question of where do people find the courage to fight an oppressive regime, that seemed to be more important than what is reality and what is humanity, which were the issues that Dick were concerned with. But I think we're getting into the multiverse. That brings this work a little closer to Dick's concerns. So I'm interested to see where that is going to lead in season 3. My final thoughts on the episode: it was good. Its function was different than episode 1. Episode 1 was trying to put all the pieces into place. I thought I was happy with that, the way that it did that. It still had character moments, and the pacing was good. Sometimes you kind of speed things up when you're trying to get a lot of plot points, plot threads going at the same time. But the first episode I felt didn't have those pacing issues. This one had the character moments and some really nice acting that came with those character moments. I was very happy with that. I had some qualms about the episode, but I'm happy enough that I don't feel like airing them at this point. Maybe later on in another episode, if I'm unhappy, I can bring out some of the things, my criticisms I've had with episode 1 and 2. But at this point, I just want to leave with a note that I'm very happy, and I'm very curious to see if this quality will be maintained, because we have a new showrunner. And so I want to see what the showrunner's handle on the material is, how consistent through the different writers and directors his vision will be within the series. And then at the end, I'm hopeful to where the rest of the episodes in this season will go. That is all for now. Take care and be well.